Assalamualaikum and konnichiwa. Thank you for joining today's episode of Academic Speaking with me, Azalia. And in today's episode, while still being academic, we're going to talk about something slightly more personal, and it's about getting married during your PhD. Kohin and I have been married for 16 months now, and looking back, especially during these quarantine times, I'm really thankful that we decided to tie the knot last year, because although I know that I'm very lucky, that's not always the case for everywhere else. Gender inequality is something that is rampant. It's nothing new. Even though there has been progress, there's always room for improvement, and especially when it comes to women in the workplace, where women decide to get married or start a family. It can always be a deal breaker, and the thing is, it shouldn't have to be. Academia is also not excluded. There are plentiful of cases of women who had to step down or give up positions just because they were starting a family or had to take care of their children. Even just deciding to want to get married can also be a huge issue when, like I said, it really shouldn't have to be. Therefore, in today's episode, I hope to share my personal experience of deciding to get married and getting married during my PhD candidacy. I know a lot of women, a lot of strong, amazing women have done this and have started families and, have done so many wonderful things while going through their PhD program, and I really salute them, and hopefully I can aspire to be like them too. My story is definitely not comparable to all that, but still just something I feel is worth sharing. Alright, so story time. I met Kohin when I was applying for the MEC scholarship. In fact, at the time of our first first meeting, I was getting ready to sit for the written examination. So straight off the bat, I told him that I was applying. So he knew I was applying for the scholarship. At the time, he was working as a research analyst. We went out for a while, and during that time, I was quite straightforward with him and told him that obviously if I got the scholarship, then I'd be moving to Japan. And once I moved to Japan, I didn't believe that there would be a future for the relationship, simply because at that point in my life, I've been through a couple of failed relationships, and I was just tired. Plainly speaking, I was really tired of being in long-term relationships with no outcome, and I just didn't want to put myself through that again. And more importantly, I knew how important PhD is, and how, we heard all the stories before we go into the program anyway, how difficult it's going to be, and how it's going to take up a lot of the time, how it can, have effects on your mental health. And I was thinking, man, if I have to deal with all that, and I also have to deal with some additional relationship emotional baggage and all long distance and whatnot, then I really don't need any of that, especially at this age. I really wanted to focus. So yeah, that was the deal. That was the story. As happy as I was with where our relationship was going, the moment I was awarded the scholarship, I had to keep to my word and told him that, alright, it's the end of the road now. But the surprise that I did not expect to see coming was he then decided that he would also apply for the MEC scholarship for the following year to do his master's. And it was my experience coaching him for the application is what actually gave me the confidence to do my MEC videos. But yeah, I helped him through the application process, and that elongated the lifespan of our relationship. For my program, I decided to leave in September to finish up my master's, so that's why I could accompany him during his application process. I was already in Japan when he found out that he was awarded the scholarship, and that was in February. And in March, I came back right after I passed my entrance examination, and we got engaged just before I went back to start my first year of PhD. Up to this point, we didn't really tell everyone in our family yet because we really wanted to be sure we had a plan, because we would both be in Japan and it would be very difficult to handle all the weddings and whatnot. When we first decided to tell our parents about our plans, as usual, there was some friction, especially from both dads. My dad especially, because he was really worried that it would interfere with my studies and that I wouldn't be able to graduate on time, and that, you know, what if I get pregnant. He was looking out for me like any father would do. For Kohin's dad, he also had the same things in mind, and since it was only going to be 2 years for our programs, they thought that we could definitely just wait it out and get married after we graduated. Thanks to my mom and my sisters though, they managed to convince my dad, considering my age, which is such a traditional thing, but yeah, my age, and the fact that we were both going to be in Japan for the next 2 years anyway. It'd be quite nice for us to accompany each other and at least have somebody. So that settled the dads, but the person that made me most nervous to tell about the getting married part was actually my supervisor. The reason why I was so nervous was because in Japan there is some stigma towards women who want to get married. Usually I hear stories from my seniors and my friends that, you know, when they apply for jobs, they usually ask you straightforward, do you plan on getting married anytime in the next 5 or 4 years? And if you say yes, then they might not hire you because they want someone who can work long term, and they know that, you know, you're probably gonna have kids or whatnot, yada yada. So, you know, it's like you're like a liability just if you say that you want to get married. So I was pretty nervous that this would also apply in academia as well. So I didn't tell my supervisor until the last minute that I had to prepare for all the wedding things. In Malaysia, before the wedding, there's a lot of paperwork that you need to settle, and you have to settle it at very specific times, like exactly 6 months before the wedding, or at least 3 months before the weddings and stuff like that. And because of that, I had to go back a lot of times. Yeah, in that year I think I went back at least 3 times just to settle everything. So like you say, there's no rest in PhD, there's no day offs in PhD, so it's quite difficult for me to find the courage to tell my supervisor that, hey, I'm actually gonna go back for 1 month at this time, and then I'm gonna go back to Malaysia for another 2 weeks for this time, and yeah, I won't be around. Alhamdulillah, thankfully everything went smoothly when I went to tell him. He was really supportive, and I worried all that for absolutely nothing. But okay, well, not really nothing, but once I told him that I'd be moving slightly further away from the university, 1 hour in fact, after the wedding, he was quite concerned, asking if I would be able to come, or how often then would I be able to come to the uni, or will it disrupt my work, and, you know, what if he, you know, there are a lot of things to consider. But at the time I was looking at my schedule and I thought that, well, you know, I can do a lot of my work from home because I'm a humanities student, so I don't need to go into a lab or whatnot. But I promised him that, yeah, no, it would still be the same and I'd still commute and whatnot. Nothing big that is going to change. So yeah, finally, after all the preparations and flying in and out from Malaysia to Japan, alhamdulillah, we got married on the 6th of March 2019. Aside from that story, one of the other main things that I want to emphasize on is how important it is to have a very supportive partner in your PhD journey or in any of your graduate school journey. Why? Because like I stated earlier, right? Yes, it's true, PhD did end up affecting my mental health. There would be days when you just can't get out of bed, and you're just huddled up, and you have imposter syndrome, and you just feel like everything is useless. Why are you doing this? And on those days, especially on those days when you just can't rely on even yourself, you need your partner to be there for you, to help you out of it and give you the encouragement to continue with the journey. They say that PhD is a very lonely journey, and this is true with or without a partner, because that loneliness that you feel is a mental kind of loneliness where only you know what you are going through. And sometimes, like this happened to me before, I've tried so many times to try and explain what I'm going through to Kok Hin, but he just doesn't get it, or he can't understand it, because, well, they can't, because they're not in your shoes, or until, you know, he goes through his own PhD journey, then maybe he'll figure it out. But even though they can't understand that loneliness, even though they you know, they can't comprehend it, it's important to have a partner that still encourages you. Then, you know, when I'm on those off days where I turn everything off and I'm just like, I'm not doing anything today because I don't feel like it and stuff, you know, he's like, okay, sure, no problem. He'll do the cooking, he'll do the chores, he'll put me to sleep. And since now we live further away from the uni, there are some days where I really have to stay back quite late or take a later train to come back just to avoid rush hour and whatnot. On those days, I can always count on him to, you know, prepare dinner and just make it easy. He makes it easy for me to go through this journey without having to feel like being a woman and getting married was an obstacle in the first place. Because these days you hear so many stories, you see it all over the internet, where women are just always treated like maids and always expected to do everything for their husbands, and the husbands doesn't lift a single finger. Oh man, those stories really agitate me so much. But yeah, when that's not supposed to be it, you're supposed to be supporting each other and working together and bringing the best out of each other. There's one video by the ex-Vice Chancellor of University Science Malaysia, Professor Dr. Asma Ismail, which went quite viral, where she stated how important it is to have a supportive and understanding husband in order for you to become a successful person. Because if you don't have that understanding and supportive man, like she said, he's gonna clip your wings and you won't be able to fly, and you won't be able to be the best version of yourself that you possibly can be. With that, I'm really thankful and feel really blessed that I have found a person who was willing to follow me all the way here and support me during this journey. And I really hope that I'll be able to do the same for him, considering that he also plans on taking his PhD somewhere in the future. Yeah. Anyway, I hope that you guys found this video beneficial in one way or another. And yeah, hope to see you guys on the next episode. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum.